hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cheapseats. This is your weekly Premier League show where we talk all things Premier League and also find a way to talk about that team that was red in Manchester. We're going to talk about that at the end. But remember, we are partnered with Classic Shirts ZA. Their logo is in the corner, right around his hair, in that area. And this week's is a doozy. When we got the images of it, I went crazy because I'm an AC Milan fan. Well, not an AC Milan fan, but I really love this AC Milan team with Kaká and Pirlo and Inzaghi and Nesta. You can relive the sequel to the night in Istanbul with another night in Athens, where this AC Milan team finally won the Champions League. So we spoke about Liverpool last week. Now we're talking about Liverpool's nemesis. So Wahid, I know you don't like AC Milan, but this kit is a doozy.
I don't like any club apart from Man United, so I don't like anybody else. But I remember that season. We were 2-0 down at Old Trafford, and Kaká was running circles around us as the Champions League semi-final. And we managed to get ourselves. It was the first leg. We managed to get ourselves back into that game, and Wayne Rooney scored an unbelievable goal at the death to win that game 3-2. And when we went to the San Siro, I was so confident. We were going to the Champions League final that year. And Kaká ran absolute circles around us. He gave us absolutely no chance. They smashed us off the park, and then did the same to Liverpool a couple of weeks later in the final. But we got our own back. We won the Champions League the next year. But a great kit. If you're impartial to buying
other teams' kits,
buy kits of clubs, you might just where you just enjoy looking at the kit and have historical value. That's a hell of a kit, and Kaká was.
And it's also
Kaká was a hell of a player at the time. Ballon d'Or winner that year, pipping Cristiano to the Ballon d'Or in 2007.
They also got that Champions League insignia there for the final. So if you want to remember that moment, use the discount code Cheapseats50 for that. Thanks to our team at Classic Shirts ZA. If you want to go check out more kits of theirs, please go to their website at classicshirts.co.za, or even find them on Instagram at Classic Shirts ZA. Remember, we're still waiting for that Bafana one to come on. To come online for pre-orders, so we're already fastest fingers first.
I actually asked Yusuf about it this morning, and I was like, Yusuf, when the hell is this thing coming on? Because all my friends are itching to buy this thing, and he was like, give us a couple of more weeks. They're sorting out some supply agreements there, so it'll be online in a couple of weeks.
Yes, and to our friend Sherwin, who bought a few Liverpool shirts using the discount code, we really do appreciate it. The discount code just lets the guys at Classic Shirts that they know that we sent you. And that's the most important thing. And you get
we're doing our job. That's what it is.
So, Dean, this weekend for you must have been one of the most insane weekends in recent Spurs history. You managed to beat the juggernaut Manchester City, and then all of a sudden, you go and lose to Burnley in the toilet bowl that you call a stadium of yours. But the funny part about it for me is not necessarily the press conference from Conte talking about the board needs to make a decision. You've lost 4 out of 5. For me, it's the fact that over the past 4 or 5 years, however long Son and Kane have been together, they've become the most lethal duo in the Premier League. But there is no trophy to show for it. That is something. But we ask you this question, what the hell is happening at Spurs? Why is your coach acting like he wants to leave?
I mean, so there's a lot of things, and I think everyone can admit is wrong at Spurs, and it starts right from the bottom and it goes all the way to the top. But I think the biggest thing now, and the reason why it's coming to the forefront so much, is before Poch, or rather after Poch, we had Mourinho and we had Nuno, and it divided Spurs fans a lot, those two coaches. There were guys that were for and there were guys for against. So there was always a bit of, whatever those coaches said, kind of took with a pinch of salt and blamed a lot of the downfall of the club on Mourinho and then Nuno. Now we're sitting in a case where we've got Conte, and everyone backs Conte. Everyone believes that Conte is the person that could get us to the trophy, like you're saying. I mean, I think it's 14 years now that we are without a trophy. So everyone is backing Conte, and his reaction to the Burnley loss is just a culmination of a terrible February for Spurs, which realistically, it started with that Southampton game where we were leading 2-1, 10 minutes to go, and we lose it 3-2. And it's almost like we're pulling a bit of a United where we just can't see out games. We just fall apart. That Wolves game, losing 2-0 at home, absolutely shocking. One of the worst Spurs performances I've seen. But then, like you say, we go and pull it out of the hat against City. So it's been a massive roller coaster of a month. And the problem is, if you spoke to, or just on Spurs Twitter, we beat City, but there are a lot of people saying, yeah, but we will lose to Burnley because that's just how our season is going. It is.
Well, so people predicted this on Sunday night.
A lot of people are saying, yeah, and the problem is losing to Burnley the way we did makes that City game look like a fluke. It doesn't make it look like we played well. It doesn't make it look like we were the better team, which it just means everyone can get lucky on a day. And I think that's the bigger problem now, is that it just looks like things clicked at the right time, and it wasn't really down to Conte putting in the work and the players doing really well and kind of clicking into the system, which is one of the bigger problems now, because there's a lot of players in that Spurs squad where they shouldn't be there. And I think that's part of what Conte is saying is, guys, I can do work with the guys that want to work. And like you say, Kane and Son, Bentancur that we've got from Juve, Christian Romero at the back, and Lloris are probably the guys that he's leaning towards. But there's a lot of riffraff in that squad where he's sitting there with his hands tied, and he's just saying, I literally can't. We sold 4 players in January, sold 6, got 2 in January. The man's not a miracle worker. As much as what he is doing better with the squad than what I think a lot of coaches could do. I can't talk much, but I think Conte has apparently done this before, where he has a bit of a kick in the screen, forces the ball to react, and then to back him in the summer, which is what I think this is, and hopefully what this is, because if Conte does walk. And this is my biggest fear. If Conte walks, all of a sudden, Spurs are already more of a laughing stock than what we are in world football. It makes every player in the whole world go, I don't want to touch that absolute shambles of a club. So immediately, you're losing potential transfers in. All the top players that you have are going to want to mission out as soon as Conte leaves. And you're going to become a bottom half table club at best. And that's what I'm more worried about. That it's almost like we have to go through. I'll get there now, but it's almost like we have to. It's such the summer, because Conte. I think I believe Conte will probably stay until the summer and see how the summer goes. But if this summer is probably the most important summer that there will ever be for Spurs, and it's now a case of top 4 is already out of the window. There's no way Spurs are finishing top 4 this season. The only thing that I think we could probably do is FA Cup, which is already a massive ask. But you can see, we can pull it out of the hat against City. So we just kind of back that we can try and pull it out of the hat if we face the likes of a Liverpool or a Chelsea or City again in the FA Cup. I think those guys are still in there. But yeah, that's it. There's not one problem. It's so many problems which are just not going to be solved quickly, and that's the problem.
Well,
Dean, I have a question for you. So first, if I'm going to say something, if Conte were to leave, you guys would be in shit creek, because already before Conte, when Conte turned the job down and in the summer, you guys had to go to choice number 6 after that before you found a manager. I mean, you were throwing darts at any manager in Europe and just seeing which one stuck. And if that were to be the case, and if Conte were to leave, you'd find it very difficult to find a boss who'd be willing to even take on the job at Spurs. I mean,
Exactly.
you already struggled. At which point, if I were Paratici and I were Daniel Levy, I'd probably go along the lines of Graham Potter and say, listen, you've got 4 seasons. Do what you need to do, build a club, because he's probably willing to take that step from Brighton to Spurs. He's a good manager, and he'd probably just want to do a little bit of a rebuild. My question, Dean, is I remember when Conte signed, I said something that you actually laughed off the show, and I said that what happened was so Conte turned the Spurs job down in the summer because he had reservations about the way Spurs were run, and when he took on the job, obviously a picture was painted to him about how they were willing to change to fit into his vision of Spurs, which isn't happening. So nothing really changed at Spurs, but he was painted a picture, and he's probably willing to walk away because that picture that was painted to him isn't really the reality of the situation. But what I did say to you at the time is that the club were panicking in hiring Conte. And it was almost like Nuno wasn't good enough, and there was absolutely no other alternative but to make Conte the promises that he wanted in the summer. And that was, to me, a club in panic. You laughed it off at the time, but do you now see that? Do you buy into that Spurs were panicking, making promises that they maybe couldn't hold, that they couldn't hold on their end?
I don't think it's panic at all. Honestly, I don't think it's panic at all. I think it's a case of 100% Conte denied the job in the summer because it was well documented. He just doesn't back DV and he doesn't like the way the club is run. But I think going back to Conte, I 100% agree with you that a picture was painted. But at the same time, we have to be realistic here that picture was not painted and it's all going to be sorted in January. There's no ways that everything that's wrong with the club can get sorted in January. So that's why I'm saying it's a case of you kind of have to sit and wait and see how it turns out. But I
don't think Antonio Conte is a stupid man. I don't think that everything that he's basing this tirade on is probably based on transfers alone. I don't think he's stupid enough to think that would have all been solved in January, because he's definitely not stupid. I mean, he would have been coming in with other promises which we don't even know about, which probably are underlying to this, and he's thinking, I'm not able to work within the structure, and I've now bought into something that I don't want to be part of.
The thing is, like, you
look, why I'm saying that
after the City game,
we've done the same. We've painted pictures to managers, to players at Man United, and when they've come in, they've gone, oh, we didn't sign up for the shit. I'm speaking from experience here.
No, I get you, and that's why you speak to Conte after the City game, and he was the one saying he's loving working at Spurs. He is really happy with this day. He knows, like, the facilities are great, the players he's really enjoying working with. I think that what we're seeing here is, and what hasn't happened at Spurs for the longest time, is no coach has gone head on with the owner, which has needed to happen at the club, because Levy just doesn't run the club as well as it could be run and isn't doing what he needs to do with the club. And I think that is, but it's Levy and Enoch. It's Levy and Enoch, and they're not doing what they need to do. And this is why I'm saying, Poch said it. He had early rumblings with him where he's quoted as saying, it's good to have a good house, but you need the furniture in it to make it a home. And he just didn't get the furniture. It was that summer where we didn't make a single transfer. So it has been building and it has been coming. It's just no coach has been willing to take it to him. And Conte is the right guy to take him with Paratici.
So I think the problem with Spurs is that often what happens is that teams who have been on a winning streak, I've seen it with Man United in the past, I've seen it with City in the past, and I've seen it a little bit with Liverpool, is that when they are successful, they sort of rest on their laurels in the transfer market thinking, well, what we've done so far is good enough. In the 2010 to 2015 sort of era, almost every single team that won the league didn't really invest in the summer following it and ended up falling behind as a result because their competitors went and invested. And Spurs did the same, but Spurs did that without really being successful. So Man United went and won the league and didn't invest, and then didn't win the league, so invested again and won the league. City did the same thing. Liverpool did the same thing. Lack of investment, but that was after winning something. Spurs just had good runs and then didn't invest. So
we got to the Champions League final, and then it just
not success.
Collapsed.
Everybody gets the Champions League final.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. 100%.
So my point is Dean, if Levy does not want to give into this show of force from Conte and maybe even Paratici, what happens then? Does Antonio Conte walk before the end of the season? Because he's going to have to tell him how much of a transfer kitty he has.
Well, yeah. So apparently he's had discussions today with Levy and met with a couple of the guys, and it had to happen after the comments after the Burnley game. The thing is, if Levy says no, Conte, I'm not backing you, and Conte walks, like I said, the fans will be in an uproar. But Levy's then in a catch-22 where he's just got a massive stadium that's been built. He's got a lot of debt on the balance sheet that still has to be paid off. And then you're going to have
what's your net debt, Dean?
I mean, I don't know what it is now, but the stadium was $1 billion. So it's a lot. It's not a little bit of money. And that guy, he needs every source of revenue he can get. And sure, we've got the NFL, we've got things like that, but he needs bums on seats in the stadium. He needs guys that are coming around. He needs to keep generating that interest in the club. So, and also to get stuff like Champions League, to get into those European competitions where we've built the facilities to do that. We just aren't going there. And I think that is where he's going to be like, if I don't back this guy, the club's going to go even worse. And then all this investment and he's just losing more money. Or he does have to actually back him. And I mean, obviously every Spurs fan is going to say, just back Conte. It's not that difficult. Just go and get the guys that he needs. And we're the 10th most or the 10th richest club in the world. It's not like we don't have the money. We've got the debt, but we do have the money to be able to go and invest. It's not like we're sitting 50th, behind Leeds in terms of cash. We've got cash, we just don't use it. And that's the most frustrating part.
Yeah, if Levy turned around to Antonio Conte and said that if you want investment in the summer, we got to sell Harry Kane, Dean, what would you do?
I'm fine with selling Harry Kane if it means Conte gets...
Selling Kane to a direct rival. So Kane's now going to us or City.
The thing is, it's very different if Conte's there or if Conte isn't there. If Conte's there and he gets the funds, I trust Conte to get the players he wants with Paratici. If we get the money, if we get Kane money and the likes of a Nuno are at then it's a complete shambles because I just don't have faith in that hierarchy that's at the club. So will it be hard to see Kane in a different shirt? 100%. And that's a lot of guys are saying he just played really well against City to put himself in the shop window. So say, this is what I can do against your club. Come and get me again. And that's what you kind of, you read that and you go, maybe it makes sense.
He's had a shitty season. He's had a
terrible season, but he's trying to turn it around and he is playing better, much better. But that's what I'm saying. The summer will make or break Tottenham. Simple as that.
Okay. I think we've had enough talk about Antonio Conte. We're going to talk about another player who played under Antonio Conte and is now really struggling. And for Wahid, this one's just for you. The awkward truth around Romelu Lukaku. 17 matches this season in the Premier League. 5 goals, 1 assist.
One assist, £100 million.
Yes, and
£100 million.
But what's gone wrong?
So why it hurts me? Why I actually feel hurt about this is because all of you two included, everybody on fucking Twitter, you questioned my Ole when he let this fat fraud go because he scored some goals in a Farmers League in Italy. No, I'm sorry. Like honestly, and United fans saw this version of Lukaku before he went to Italy. A lot of United fans then rewrote history because of an agenda with Ole. But this is the exact same Lukaku that we had in our final season at United. He's not changed. It's exactly the same thing. And I don't understand why anyone would pay £100 million for a player who's struggled in England before. He is a big fish he's a person who's a big fish in a small pond. He can only do well when he's a big fish in a small pond. When he's a big fish in a big pond, he struggles, but he's an enormous fish because he's overweight. But anyway, I think one of the bigger issues...
But here's my thing, though. You say big fish in a small pond. Is he a big fish in Italy? Or was he a big fish at Inter? Because they had Hakimi, who went for 80 mil to PSG. They had Eriksen. They've got Brozovic. They've got Laturo. They've got big players in that squad. They've got a lot of great players at Inter.
But doesn't have the spotlight of England. Nowhere close does it have the spotlight, the media attention of England.
But my thing is this: I think for Lukaku, my point around him is I think Thomas Tuchel his system doesn't work for a Lukaku.
I was about to talk to that actually, Paul. I think that to get Lukaku playing well, he's got to play the 3-5-2 because Lukaku needs, and we've talked about that before. Lukaku is not a target man. If you're going to use Lukaku as a target man, you've already failed. So he kind of needs a strike partner like he had with Lautaro. But the problem is that when Lukaku has played in a 3-5-2, he hasn't quite been good enough for Chelsea. Like let's call a spade a spade.
There was that game against Arsenal where he just bulldozed out.
I mean, you can pull one or two performances out, but he's a £100 million player. He should be playing well every week, and he's not a 21-year-old player either. He's a player with experience. He's a player with know-how, and he should be coming in and dominating from day one. He has Premier League experience. There should be no adjustment period for him. My thing is, though, that Chelsea have looked a lot better when they're not playing a 3-5-2, when they can actually play Hakim Ziyech on the wing as an actual winger and not as a wing-back. Hakim Ziyech has looked really, really good the last couple of weeks, playing as a winger. The problem is now to get Lukaku back in the side, are you going to change back to 3-5-2? Is that going to make Hakim Ziyech play out of position as a wing-back? So you're now starting to take your other expensive parts and playing and putting like square pegs in round holes to accommodate a player who simply isn't good enough at the moment. Like another player who suffers because of Lukaku is Kai Havertz. The guy's actually a really good footballer, but he suffers within a system that includes that includes Romelu Lukaku. Without Lukaku, Havertz is a really good player. Reminds me of
Havertz played that false nine during the week in the Champions League against Lille, and he played really well, and he's come up with the goal. Let's not forget the man scored the Champions League winner. He scored the goal at the World Cup, the Club World Cup to get them through. And now he came up with that Champions League goal.
Chelsea playing 4-3-3 with Havertz as a false nine is probably their best option.
100%.
That's their best option.
But then they spend.
Havertz reminds me a lot of Berbatov.
But then they spend all this money for this guy. They have him there. Who's gonna what do they do with him? Do they sell him to
Spurs? He's coming to Spurs, and Conte is going to reignite his career. Don't worry.
That would make so much sense for everybody involved. Okay, I can almost see it. Man United.
I'm not even joking. It's literally
Man United get Poch. Man United get Poch, and we buy Kane. Cristiano goes to join Zidane at PSG. And Conte gets Lukaku from Chelsea. It makes sense for everybody.
But except for Chelsea, what does Chelsea get in return?
Honestly, there are rumors that if Lukaku continues with his poor form, which he probably will, Chelsea are going to put their name in their hat for Kane. And if that happens, Kane goes to Chelsea before he goes to United.
That we're having an awkward truth on Romelu Lukaku, but we haven't had that same conversation with Timo Werner. It's just wild that Chelsea for the last 2 seasons
Timo Werner is 23 and he cost £50 million. Romelu is 27, 28 and cost £100 million.
Doesn't matter. But they've bought 2 strikers who are flops.
They haven't bought 2 strikers who flops in Paul. Since Roman Abramovich has come in, they've actually struggled with their strikers. They've had more misses than hits. They've had Andrei Shevchenko, a British record transfer price. They've had Hernan Crespo. They've had Fernando Torres.
Would you say Diego Costa's the only striker?
Haven't worked. They've
what
actually
about
been for strikers. Drogba is the exception to the rule. They've actually been
Costa. Drogba and Costa are the only ones that stand out for me.
But those are exceptions to the rule. If you go through all the strikers Chelsea have spent money on, it's a lot of strikers and a lot of money and more misses than hits.
Blind spot indeed, Wahid. Blind spot indeed. Final topic of the day for you again, Wahid, because we like to talk about that gargantuan club. We've watched Manchester United over the past couple of weeks seemingly try to get it going together. They're only managing to give us 45 minutes of football, but we're starting to see patterns developing in Ralf Rangnick's selection, and his play. And now we're trying to find out who the guys that are actually benefiting in this Ralf Rangnick system. Wahid, we're going to allow you to run with this, and then we'll pitch in, because I know the first name on your list has to be Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, Sancho's been the big beneficiary of Rangnick's reign so far. Unfortunately, it's almost like one can't live while the other survives in terms of Rashford and Sancho, because Sancho has struggled on the right and has been placed on the left now under Rangnick, and has been absolutely class on the left in the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's everything we've desired from Jadon Sancho, and I mean, he hasn't hit the heights of what we expect so far, but we didn't expect him to be a world-class beater in season one. He's 21 years old and he's coming into a new league. But this version of Jadon Sancho is probably what we expected at the start of the season. He's been really, really good, and he's probably been the driving force. I almost feel like he's the one who's looked around and been like, guys, well, we need to end the season well. Like someone's going to have to like step up and play well here, and he's been the one to do it so far in terms of an attacking sense. Him and Bruno have been the ones who sort of clicked so far. Both quite technical players, and they've clicked within the system so far, which has shifted Rashford out to the right where he struggled. Rashford has struggled almost every time he's played, and he's been one of the people who maybe haven't benefited from Rangnick's reign so far. I think the other one who's really benefited from Rangnick's reign is Fred. He's come in and a player with.
But didn't Fred play under Ole as well, and was he utilized a lot more?
I think he was utilized under Ole, but he's been a lot better under Ralf Rangnick. We saw the difference a player like Fred made on the weekend, coming on for Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba played really well against Leeds. He was absolutely shocking last night, but he played well against Leeds. But when he was hooked, we almost thought, what's Rangnick doing? But you could see that fans were thinking, what's he doing? Pogba's playing well. He's dictating this game. But what he wanted was something different. He wanted this new version of Fred that he's training. Fred was kind of used in a double pivot under Ole, and he's being used more as an 8 in Rangnick's version of United. He's used for his lungs and his running and his energy, which is what you get from a player like Fred. And he was kind of maybe stifled under Ole a bit in playing in a very tactically in a position where he needed to be tactically smart, where Fred is maybe not very tactically smart. He's not very tactically disciplined in terms of what he can do in a double pivot. What you will get from him is energy and endless running, and that Rangnick is trying to use that to the best of his ability, and he's doing well with that. So Fred's been another one. And I think the other one is Diogo Dalot. He's come into the side and he's done really, really well. And he's taken over that position as right back. He's dislodged a £50 million player.
Is Dalot good, or is Wan-Bissaka just terrible?
I think Dalot is maybe not at the level Mourinho
neither
thought he
are
was.
Fantastic right backs.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I don't think Dalot is quite as good as Mourinho thought he was, but I don't think he's quite as bad as Ole thought he was. I think he's in between, but I definitely don't think Wan-Bissaka is a very good footballer. I think Ole probably saw something in Wan-Bissaka that wasn't there. I'm not a fan of him. I don't think he's a really good footballer. I don't think he has a good footballing brain, and I think we struggle with him. So I don't think Dalot has been brilliant. I think often with Wan-Bissaka you'll see an underhit cross, whereas with Dalot you'll see an overhit cross. But Dalot has brought a bit of energy to the side, which we lacked under with Wan-Bissaka. So yeah, I think it's been a mixed bag under Rangnick, and I think with the last couple of fixtures we would have probably expected a little bit more. But having said that, we haven't done badly, and he has definitely steadied the ship. You can see where he's trying to take the club. You can see where he's trying to take the players. The players, I think it's absolutely embarrassing that the players aren't fit enough to carry out his instructions for 90 minutes. So what we've seen is him try and maybe get them to carry out his instructions for 45 minutes. Because when he started, they were playing well in the first half, but falling to pieces in the second half. So now it's almost like he's telling them to hold off in the first half and just play in the second half, because that's probably where you're going to win a match. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for players. They have absolutely no professional pride if they can't play football for the way the manager.
I thought things had changed under Ole with the introduction of Cristiano and the fitness and the food, and there's no more dessert. Have we gone back to old days now?
I don't know, because I know Ole complained about a really unfit squad under Mourinho, But that we didn't know. We didn't know what was happening there. But I'm not, no one's talked about it. No one in the media said anything. I'm just watching a bunch of players play, and I'm like, these guys aren't fit enough to do what their manager wants. They can't carry out his instructions for 90 minutes. Either they're doing it in the first half and then falling to pieces in the second half, or they're playing like absolute dross in the first half and then coming out in the second half and playing a bit of football. Which it seems to be that the instructions over the last couple of weeks, I think started at Norwich, was that, okay, we'll hold off in the first half. If you guys can't press for 90, then hold off in the first and press in the second half. It was last night was chalk and cheese. They did not press at all in the first half. They were absolutely nowhere. Atletico hounded us into oblivion in the first half. United came out in the second half completely different side. Absolutely different. Like there was energy, they were able to press. It was almost like the tactics changed at halftime.
Yeah, and so if I look at the guys who benefited from, I think, a Ralf Rangnick reign, obviously you've got Jaden, you've also got Adalo, and you mentioned all the guys. But the one guy, and I think Dean will back me here, is Anthony Martial. Tearing it up in Seville, doing a really great job, showing us the striker that we've all been missing. That Ole is just
Ballon d'Or winner almost.
He's got to win the Ballon d'Or at Seville. Watch, you just watch.
But I think one of my, and I wanted to see what you say, Wade. Do you also not think Bruno has played much better under Ralf, because when Ralf first came in and he was trying to figure out 3-5-2 versus 4-3-3, Bruno was nowhere. But as soon as he hit that 4-3-3 and Bruno fitted the 4-3-3, Bruno's now playing, and he's now creating the way that he used to. So Bruno
yeah. So Bruno is our best player, and it was a travesty to try and fit Bruno into the left in a 4-2-2-2. That was an absolute travesty. You don't take your best player and play him out of position like that. Then I think Ralf figured that out, to say that, well, that doesn't work. You putting your best player out of position, and then he came to his 4-3-3, where Bruno was playing a little bit deeper. Bruno was better in the 4-3-3, where he was playing as an 8 rather than a 10. And then in the last 2 to 3 weeks, Ralf has figured out that actually, if you want to get the best out of Bruno Fernandes, you're going to play him as a 10, because Bruno Fernandes, he is a high risk, high reward type of player. But in terms of high risk, high reward, you need to have a high volume of those attempted passes. I personally don't care if Bruno Fernandes has a passing accuracy of 60% of the game, because with the amount of creative passes he tries, a couple are bound to come off, and he's bound to lend.
He gave the pass for Elanga, so
yeah, exactly. That thing was insane.
In the end, he plays the right ball for Elanga. So I think Ralf has, over his time, as well as the players figuring out Ralf's method, Ralf has figured out his players. So you can't come in and say this is the way we play and try and fit your players into that. Players drive systems. Systems don't drive players. And I think he's figured out that if you're going to get the best out of Man United, you need to get the best out of Bruno Fernandes. To get the best out of Bruno Fernandes, you have to play him as a 10.
Okay, one question for you, Wahid, to close it out. Conte is not happy. He really isn't. Are you guys talking
about Anthony Martial, who's played 3 games in the La Liga and 0 goals and 1 assist, and he's only scored in the Europa League? Come on now.
But he's the savior of Sevilla. So.
Yes, one question, right? Ralph's doing well. At the end of the season, he has to move away to be the czar that overlooks the football at Manchester United. If Antonio Conte is available, is it him? Or is it always been Poch? It has to be Poch.
For me, it's not Antonio Conte. For me, Man United have been down that Antonio Conte path with Jose Mourinho. It hasn't worked, and I'm kind of done with that type of pass. I've understood. Again, I do think it was a panicky decision, but I understand why Spurs might want that type of boss again. Spurs are more desperate for a trophy with an aging squad, in terms of they need to get something out of this squad. The squad has been good and has achieved, but they needed to try and get a trophy out of it. They tried Mourinho, it didn't work, and Antonio Conte is almost like the last throw of the dice to try and get something out of the Spurs squad. And I understand why they would do that. Man United's squad isn't in that sort of position where it's like now or never. It's sort of having been through Ole, the building process. We thought we had gotten to a point where we were ready for silverware. Evidently not. And now we kind of back 2 seasons from that. So for me, we need a coach who's gonna build something, who's gonna get rid of more deadwood. Ralf has started, but get rid of more deadwood and maybe blood some youngsters. If we're gonna start blooding the likes of Anthony Elanga and Hannibal, we're gonna need a coach who buys into that. And for me, that comes down to 2 men. It's Poch or Erik ten Hag. And I don't know who it's going to be. Personally, I prefer Poch, but that's simply because I've watched Poch go about his business. I've watched him for a very long time in the Premier League. I don't watch the Dutch league. I watch Ajax a couple of times in the Champions League, so I don't know that much about Erik ten Hag. And I'm not sure how well ten Hag would cope within United's structure. Poch has coped within a similar structure. The Spurs structure and the United structure is actually quite similar, and Poch has coped within a structure like that before. So I think Poch would probably be more equipped to cope within United structure than ten Hag, who's used to dealing with footballing men.
Wahid, would you take a younger coach with knowing that you have the director of football, Ralf Rangnick, sitting inside there?
No, Ralf Rangnick isn't going to be the director of football. We have a director of football who's John Murtaugh.
So what is he going to do?
And United have said that. And
United have wants to stay as coach. You're forgetting the part where Rangnick has said, "I do actually want to coach the squad." You're assuming the man's going upstairs before he's moved upstairs. The man wants the job, so he's just used the "I will go upstairs" route as a foot in, and now if you guys have a successful season, which whatever you might say is success for United at this point, top 4 probably. You won't win Champions League, so let's say top 4 is what you guys would say is a successful season.
Yeah.
It puts Rangnick in a position of going, well, I've achieved what you probably thought was impossible before I arrived. Let me do what I want to do. And can you say no to that?
I hope that John Murtaugh, Darren Fletcher, the technical director, and whoever takes over as the assistant, because Man United have said that they will hire an assistant director of football to help with this footballing structure now. What they're trying to do is Edward Wood has now left. He's left the building. His successor is Richard Arnold, and Richard Arnold wants to really detach the footballing and the business aspect of the business. So they've changed. Edward Wood was called the executive vice chairman. I personally don't know what that means. Richard Arnold's title is CEO, and Richard Arnold has come in, and apparently, to me, it's more of the same of Edward Wood. But he's come in. He said he really wants to detach the business and the footballing side because he doesn't know that much about the footballing aspect of the business. So they're going to hire another person to assist in the footballing structure. What that means, I don't know, but I don't know where Ralf fits into this footballing structure. At the moment, the role he's going to take is an advisor, a consulting advisor to the club on a 2-year contract. I don't know what that means. And as Dean said, I do suspect that there might be a temptation from non-footballing men in the club to hire Ralf Rangnick. But I'm hoping that the footballing men at the club don't buy into that. I hope that
he said, was it this week or last week where he said he actually doesn't know what Fletcher does? Like he has no idea what Fletcher's role in the club is.
So I also don't know what Darren Fletcher does as technical director.
Exactly.
Technical director should be assumed, but Darren Fletcher sits on the bench and takes training sessions. But having said that, again, with people in the know at the club saying that Darren Fletcher is actually a very vital cog within the footballing structure because he understands what United should be about. So whatever he's doing, whatever that weird hybrid role that he has is, it's working. So let him do it. When he's a suit in the afternoons and in the tracksuit in the mornings, let him do it.
It sounds like a job. Sounds like a job we all want, where nobody knows what you do, but they think you're important. So we
like a management consultant. Nobody knows what folks do.
Exactly. But guys, thank you very much. Sounds like there's too many chefs in the kitchen at Manchester United. You let us know what you think. Thank you very much for joining us. And just watch out for our FPL edition, and where we'll be talking about guys who triple captained Mo Salah and got dividends, while the others struggled their way to however many points they got in that pseudo double gaming. But from ourselves here at Cheapseats, goodbye, good night, and le sale kakagiso.